My name is Megan Richardson, and I am the VP of Consulting with Dynamic Corporate Solutions. So we are a full-service HR consulting firm. We're located in Jacksonville, Florida, just a little bit south. And we kind of do everything soup to nuts that could be HR, but I tell you, recently my world has been COVID and how to deal with it and how to help make not only your workplace safe for your employees, but also give your clients and your customers a good sense of well-being. So happy to get started today. Brandon, can I go ahead and share my screen?
Yep, all set.
Wonderful. All right, wonderful. Well, happy to have you with us today. We're going to be focusing primarily on getting your employees back to work. Some of the concerns that people have, the hesitations they have, we want to make sure that we have the right policies in place, the right procedures in place, and are messaging things the best way we possibly can in order to make them feel safe and to incent them to return to work as quickly as we need them to so that we can keep our businesses running. So with that, let's go ahead and kick off today. Again, things are not going to look the same way that they did. I think that we probably all heard the new normal to death. We're all probably sick of that. But certainly, I think we've seen during this pandemic, the businesses that have been the most successful are those that are really pivoting and are fluid. And that is one of the great things about being a small business is that we have the luxury of being able to do that. This is something I hope we can talk about a little bit in our discussion following the presentation, things that you have seen that companies do well or things that you're implementing which have gone really well for your organization. But I know that here in Jacksonville, we've seen great things from businesses like Maple Street Biscuit Company. I'm not sure if they're all over the nation. They're certainly delicious and here in Florida. And, typically it's a breakfast place, here's a biscuit, here's some egg on it, and here's some hash browns, right? But once COVID hit, what they did is they closed their doors and said, hey, we're still getting stock in. So we're going to start selling cold steaks. We're going to start selling toilet paper. We're going to start selling everything that we have in our stock room. And at the time when the store shelves were completely empty here, that was a huge benefit, not only to the community, right, because we saw them as a partner, but it also, helped us fill our refrigerators. So it's businesses like that that are pivoting and moving really quickly. And we're able to kind of flex their business model in order to fit the needs of the community today. Something else that we saw, which I love, is, HelloFresh. If y'all are familiar with kind of the meals that come in the box and they ship it to your house and you cook it, well, because we couldn't get groceries, they started opening up storefronts. So again, taking their same, product, but just packaging it and presenting it in a different way. So we may need to look at some of those things. We may need to discuss some of those best practices today to make sure that you can get back in business as quickly as possible. So in order to do that, in order to get back to business, we need to get our people back. And certainly I think that there are a lot of concerns that employees have, and we're going to talk about that in the mental health in a couple of slides. But one of the first things we need to think about is we need to communicate that change. We're ready to come back. This is what it looks like. And we need to outline that and document it, not only for our employees, but also for our clients. You've probably been on the receiving end of a million emails from different, chains that you're on or different distribution lists from clients and businesses that you go to. And kind of talking through, what are your procedures going to be? What are things going to look like in your world? I know even my hair salon is saying, yes, you can come back, but everybody's going to be 6 feet apart. You have to wear a mask. You have to wait outside. So what are your procedures going to look like? And I think that that's really important, not only from a health protection standpoint for your employees, but also from an optics standpoint, right? So we want to know, how are our clients viewing us? Because we don't want to be seen as someone who's kind of slapdashing. We're just really happy to be, the governor said that we can go back to work, so we're just going to hustle in. We want our clients and our customers to feel really safe with us, to know that we take their health seriously, and the health of our employees seriously. We're going to have to address the fear of returning. So in that initial communication document, we need to have something in there about, if you have concerns, this is the protocol. This is who you need to talk to. Perhaps you have, you're immune compromised. Perhaps someone in your home is. What are those special circumstances and how can we deal with them? But we want to make sure we have that plan and we have it orchestrated. Be able to relate it back to your mission. So many folks talk about, kind of in their vision, mission, values, what is important to them is, creating a great working atmosphere, the importance of the health of their employees. So bring that back and use this as an opportunity to reiterate your mission. And then, of course, plan to return people in stages. We don't want to go from 0 to 100, right? So we want to do something slow. We want to do something incremental, and we can talk about what those options are. So we want to make sure we're providing consistent communication. So we need to have one communication that goes to everybody equally. What we don't want to do is call up and say, Joe gets this message, but Karen gets this message, right? Because that can get a little sticky. So we want to figure out the medium of communication that's going to be best. Maybe you have a small organization and you want to get everybody together on a Zoom call like this. Maybe you want to do a phone call. Maybe it's time for, an email, text chain, whatever works best for you, whatever your typical medium is, that's how you want to communicate it. You definitely want a letter issuing a date of confirmation of return to work. So we want to do this for a couple of different reasons. We want to do this for documentation that we came back to work. There are all types of things right now regarding, PPP loans and tax credits and all kinds of good stuff. I know folks later in the week are going to be talking about, but from our standpoint, we want to make sure we have documentation that there was a job and you have then offered that job back to an employee who was either laid off or furloughed. You want to make sure that you're allowing time for people to make plans. I can tell you personally, in my family, my husband was furloughed when the governor shut down the state back in March. He was furloughed for 2 weeks, and then he got a call at like 9:30 at night saying, hey, we decided to reopen. You need to be at work at 8 o'clock the next morning. And that was really hard. Now, luckily, we're in a situation where, I'm working from home. We have 2 small kids, so I was able to just pick that up. But not everybody has that. So you need to allow time for your people to make plans either for, childcare or possibly they're looking after, an elderly or ill parent. So different people have different things in their lives, and we just want to be respectful to allow them enough time to deal with those things. You also want to consider the impact of your bring back date and how that's going to impact your employees' unemployment. So every state's a little bit different. In Florida, we run unemployment week date is Sunday to Saturday. So they're typically maximums. So the national average for a maximum is $364, which means that that's the most that you're going to earn through unemployment. In Florida, it's $275. But again, if you make $275 or $364 within a certain period of time, so, depending on how much you pay your people, 2 to 3 days, we want to make sure that we're not allowing them to earn that much so they can't earn overtime for the rest of the week. So we don't want to cut them off if they earn $364 here, but they don't earn anything here. So we want to allow them that flexibility. And keep in mind, too, right now your folks are not only getting whatever the state determination is, but they're also getting that additional $600 supplement from the federal government. And we're going to talk about how that's going to impact people's feelings about returning in just a second, because I know that's probably hot on everybody's mind. But again, think about what that looks like. Figure out in your state what your maximum is going to be, and then calculate, okay, well, if I bring people back to work, on a Monday or a Tuesday or a Thursday, how can I help them? And again, that's just something else that you can do that's nice and thoughtful, and let your employees know that we're all in this together, right? That you're keeping them in mind. So I call this my B slide, okay? So this is going to be flexible, be ready, and be honest. So if people are concerned about returning, or if they're flat out refusing to return, the first B we want to be is flexible. So if we can ask for people's input on the return process, talk to them about what their concerns are. This is one of the fundamental things at HR. If you involve employees in the process, and I don't care if it's you're writing a job description, or you're bringing people back to work, or you're developing your vision, mission, values. If people feel like they are part of the process, if they have had a voice in building this, then they're going to feel more comfortable with it. They're going to be more engaged with it. So you want to involve them in the process. You don't want to just be mandating, this is what I've made the decision to do, and I'm the owner, and there you go. This is about us, everyone feeling comfortable and everybody getting back to work together. So involve them in that return to work process. Also, they know their jobs better than you know their jobs, because they're doing them day in and day out. So if there is maybe PPP, or PPP, that's on the brain, isn't it? PPE, that they would feel more comfortable with. Is there something, is there a sticker that you can put on the floor that would make them more comfortable? These could be very inexpensive, easy things that would put them at ease and allow them to return to work and feel safer about it. You do need to be prepared, though, because as I said, a lot of employees are getting that $600 and they're getting their state maximum. They may be making more on unemployment than they are making with you. And, I think the most important thing with this is that you're ready with that answer, which is going to be, listen, that $600 extra is going to be good right now through July 31st. The HEROES Act, which would talk about extensions of, a lot of additional funding for Americans, whether that be in the form of a stimulus or perhaps, additional unemployment. That's all up in the air. There are no guarantees with that. So, if they think about going from, $975 a week to $275 a week or $875 to $275, you can tell math isn't my thing, right? Then it's going to make a big difference. So they need to think about that and the fact that, you can't hold their jobs. Right? So the business needs to move on. If they're telling you that they're not going to return and you have a job available for them, then essentially that's going to be resigning. If they do choose to do that and they do resign, very, very important that you have that in writing. Even if it's just, please respond, you type it out in an email and they respond and say, yes, that's true. You need some sort of documentation because eventually unemployment is going to catch up with all of us and they're going to ask you for this documentation of when did you return to work, what job did you offer, when did they turn it down, right? So we want to make sure that we have all of this information available for them. And certainly just kind of the knowledge of, listen, it's going to be more challenging. No one knows what the economy is going to look like. No one knows what the world is going to look like 3, 6, 9 months from now. So I have a job for you. I have a job for you today. I would love it if you would return back to work. Now, the interesting thing, too, because we had a cohort a couple of weeks ago, and we were specifically talking about, hey, if you don't feel safe, then there was this, and you have a job to offer, there was still kind of this little wiggle room there where some states were still granting unemployment. So even if there was a job, you could say, you know what, it's additional exposure. I'm a little bit concerned. I don't want to come back to work right now. They were still able to earn that unemployment. That is not the case right now. And in fact, I think it was like the day after the cohort, we started seeing messages from, the White House and the Department of Labor and all kinds of folks coming back saying, listen, if there's a job available for you and you choose not to take it, the unemployment's gone. So flexible work options, we were talking about, if we're going to bring people back, what's the best way to do that? So, again, we want to go some sort of a phased implementation. We want to do something gradual, ease people back into it. So you can continue to do the remote work, whether that's, occasionally letting people, or if it's partial, maybe it's a schedule, maybe it's something on an as-needed basis, allowing people that flex time. So does everybody have to start at 8? Can we have some people start at 6 and they end at 3, and then maybe we can cut the overtime? You can do compressed work weeks, or people can work, 4 10s. Job sharing, staggering the start times. I know a lot of businesses right now that have a Monday, Wednesday, Friday crew, and they have a Tuesday, Thursday crew. And they're going to alternate being at home and being in the office, and you're only with the people who are in the office Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or Tuesday, Thursday, and it's going to reduce that risk. So even though you're in the office, the number of people in the office at one time is going to be drastically reduced. So that's been something that's been very, very popular with my clients. Or are there additional shift options? Can we run a third shift? Is that an option? Okay, so these are some policies that I want to make sure that you have in place and things that you're thinking about. So are you going to perform temperature checks? Is that something that is an option for you? All 50 states, that is something that you can absolutely do within your legal rights. You just want to make sure, again, who's doing it? How are you performing it? What are you doing with the information? There are a lot of kind of, personal health laws. There's HIPAA laws. We just want to make sure we're doing it in the right way. And then I want you to think about and have the plan for all of these things, these scenarios that could happen. So if an employee is exhibiting COVID-19 symptoms, how are you going to handle that? What are you going to do? If somebody comes to you and says they tested positive, or if a coworker is exposed, so it's not me, I'm not sick, but someone in my household is sick. So the most important thing you can do here is to be prepared for all of these scenarios so that when this happens, you can react quickly and you've had the opportunity to really think it through without being reactionary and being in that panic mode, which is where my client was yesterday. Also really important that you have a solid infection control policy. So for any kind of contagious disease, and honestly, this is something that I've been putting in handbooks for 15 years. So what does that mean? That means, we don't want you coming to work if you're sick, right? We really need to start embracing that work-life balance, where if people don't feel well, I tell you, I was horrible about it. I felt like, you know what, I'm in there, I'm a workaholic, I'm going to take care of it. I think February, I made 3 people in my office sick, and I didn't feel nearly as bad about it as, I think we've all kind of changed that view of the world of, gosh, I feel horrible that I made someone sick. Why didn't I stay at home? Obviously, we're all, doing just fine at home. So it's a different lens, but I think it's important that you put this policy in place, you clearly communicate it, that if they're experiencing any kind of symptoms, any kind of, fever or sneezing or anything that could be contagious, we support you. Be at home. Work from home if you can work. Take a PTO day if you can't, but stay out of the office, stay out of the workplace. You want to make sure that you have some sort of method for increasing cleaning and disinfection. I know a lot of chambers are offering supplies for businesses, especially small businesses right now, trying to help them kind of get back up and running, trying to move desks and equipment, rearrange, the office space. If you have an open floor plan, what are you going to do to protect people? Figuring out the barriers, the sneeze guards, and then anything we can do to kind of reduce the surfaces that people touch. So whether that's installing kick plates on doors or automatic openers. I've seen the cool, like you wrap your wrist around it. Have y'all seen those? You wrap your wrist around and then kind of pull the door towards you. So again, anything we can do to stop touching things is gonna help us. We also want to make sure that we're supplying our workers with what they need. So, no-touch trash cans, plenty of hand soap, disinfectants, paper towels, whatever they need. We should have regular hand washing or hand sanitizers. Hand washing signs that should go up. There's signs that are available from the Department of Labor. And then, of course, having masks, gloves, whatever you feel like is going to be most appropriate for your workspace in regard to PPE. So I know in the past I've had, especially with small businesses, a lot of times we're working on a budget and, we have people who kind of share computers or share workspaces. This is not that time. So we want to reduce that as much as possible. If you have a workroom and everybody's using the same stapler and everybody's using the same hole punch, spend the $8, get everybody a stapler, get everybody their own hole punch, right? So this is not the time that we want to be sharing things. Think about again, these are all things you have to communicate to your employees because people are just going to go back to habits, right? So we want to make sure we're controlling that. So the no handshake norm that we're coming into, there's a lot of different things going around with how people are greeting each other. My favorite is called the feet greet. I don't know if y'all have seen that, but it's kind of, I'm not going to stand, but do y'all remember Kid and Play where they used to do like the thing and then like they would like touch feet and then they would like back up? Yeah, so that's the new hello. It's basically like going up and you touch the insole of your feet to the insole of the other person's foot. So I don't know if that's going to catch on, but that's what people are doing now as a professional greeting. I'm in HR. I usually work with other HR folks, and I will tell you HR folks are huggers, right? So we love a good hug. So not that I meet you initially, but after I've seen you a couple of times, yeah, come here, get in here, get a hug. I can't imagine a world where we're going to go back to doing that. So figure out what your new norm is and make sure you're communicating that to your employees. Make sure you're communicating, hey, this is the number of people we can allow in the break room at one time. We need to stagger lunch times, eat in your office, whatever that is. Make sure that you're limiting interaction with people and figure out what the criteria is going to be for in-person meetings. How many people can be in a room? What does your office space look like, or what does your workspace look like? Do you have the opportunity to have people spread out? But make sure you're controlling that so that people don't run away with it or do things that you wouldn't be happy about. So I did want to include this slide just because, there are varying, beliefs on, the severity of the situation, and some people are taking it very, very seriously and have not left their house since March, and, other people say, oh, no, it's fine, everybody's going to be fine. But these are actual statistics, and, this is a mental health survey that was done just recently by Ginger. I would recommend you go out and Google it. It's really, really interesting. But 69% of workers are saying that COVID-19 is the most stressful time of their career. So whether you agree with it or not, or whether, you're feeling the personal stress or not, although I can't imagine a world where we aren't feeling stressed right now, this is what your workers are feeling. So it is in our, what they call duty of care, right? So it's our duty of care to make sure that we're doing our best to provide employees, with the safe work atmosphere, and certainly I think it's important that you look into what benefits are available to you. Even if you're a small employer, if you offer any kind of a life insurance, typically there's an EAP that's attached to that. So you may have more resources available to you than you know. So look into that. This is just a quick note. I am doing a complimentary COVID-19 series. I think I'm up to like 24 or 25 of these things. But we're actually doing one specifically on the hesitant employee, returning folks to the workplace. We're doing that on Thursday. And then legal battles, what we're starting to see in the court. So feel free to join us. That is my website, and we would love to have you. So with that,